And then I'm going to go ahead and admit people. Hi, everybody, welcome.
Hi, everyone. As you guys are coming in, if you guys wouldn't mind to fill out the Google form that's on the screen right now. It's pretty short. It's only like 5 questions or so. So if you would either scan the QR code, or I think Serena might put it in the chat as well, just as a background kind of on everyone attending, so we can kind of look at that before we start the panel. So yeah, I'm probably going to make the announcement a couple more times as people start coming in. And I think we're going to start the panel at 6:35 or so. So a little bit of time as people are coming in right now.
Looks like everybody's slowly rolling in. Hi, everybody. Looks like we're getting a good number of people attending tonight.
Yeah, so if you guys just popped in now, if you guys wouldn't mind filling out the Google form that's on the slide currently, it'll be really fast, and it's just kind of to get everyone's background who's attending, so we can kind of gauge the panel questions more toward like the level at which you guys are in terms of like what program you come from, whether you have like job experience or what kind of data you might be knowledgeable about. So yeah, those are the types of questions that are in the form. It's really fast, and then we'll be showing the results later on in the panel as well. So yeah, as we are just letting everyone arrive. I think we could probably move on to the agenda. Okay, yeah, so I'll have Serena post the Google form link one more time for everyone who comes in a little bit later. But hi, everyone. My name is Samantha. I am currently, I'm a second year student now in the UW MHI HIM program. And I am co-hosting this panel with Jen over here, and we are a part of the Student Engagement Committee, and we're presenting the first of 3 spotlight series of curate in informatics. This one is about roles and data. So hopefully you guys are excited about that. And we're going to move on to the agenda now. So for our agenda, we are going to be starting with kind of a background about HIMSS Washington in general, and then about the Student Engagement Committee. And then we'll have an introduction of our panelists, and then kind of have a small break in between to have everyone get some water and go to the bathroom really fast or something like that. And then we'll be having a Q&A session. So if any other questions that you guys wanted to bring up that weren't answered, you can bring them up at that point. And then at the end, there'll be kind of a closing survey and announcements about future events and other things that HIMSS Washington and the Student Engagement Committee are doing.
Okay, so that's my cue. Hi, everybody. I'm Jen Garcia, and I am the HIMSS Washington Chapter Scholarship Chair, as well as the Student Engagement Chair. Just a couple of slides about HIMSS. HIMSS stands for Healthcare Information Management Systems Society. And as a mission-driven nonprofit, HIMSS offers a unique depth and breadth of expertise in health innovation, public policy, workforce development, research, and digital health transformation. All that to advise leaders, stakeholders, and influencers across the global health ecosystem on best practices. With a community-centered approach, HIMSS Innovation Engine delivers key insights, education, engaging events to healthcare providers, payers, governments, startups, life sciences, and other health service organizations, ensuring that they have the right information at point of decision. Next slide, please. So here's a little bit about the mission and vision of HIMSS. I'm going to have our secretary, Serena, go ahead and post the links to the Washington HIMSS chapter. We also have links on the WashingtonHIMSS.org if you'd like to see a little bit more or learn a little bit more about HIMSS. Go ahead and next slide, please. And just a little bit of like examples of what we do. If you go on the www.himss.org site, you'll see that we offer initiatives, solutions, opportunities, initiatives such as if you are a nursing informatics student or nursing informatics professional, there is a National Nursing Informatics Alliance you could join. Every year at the HIMSS Global Conference, there is a group called the Health Interoperability Group, and they have a large showcase. Health organizations and vendors come together and create interoperability solutions for certain case studies. You can also check out our different solutions. We have Accelerate Health, which is our form of LinkedIn or Facebook. There's also a job mind site that you can look at on HIMSS.org if you wanted to see national job opportunities being offered at different organizations. HIMSS is also great for other opportunities such as student scholarships, awards, and certifications, just to name a few. Go ahead and let's go to the next slide. Just a shout out to our elite sponsors for the Washington chapter, Fujitsu and SailPoint, as well as a shout out to our past sponsors for the Washington HIMSS chapter. As you can see, all of them listed here. And then just some information about the Student Engagement Committee. What we are is we are a group of volunteers that are trying to create a positive, encouraging space for students that are interested in healthcare and information technology. And we do that with different focuses. We want to put on events that are geared toward student interests. We want to provide scholarship opportunities. Every April, we have a scholarship program that goes out. And in the fall, we're starting a mentoring pilot. Those are just a couple of focuses that our Student Engagement Committee features. And we think that this link between students and existing local HIMSS chapter members is a really, really important link to provide because we want to provide opportunities for networking with other health IT professionals, clinicians in the area, the various academic folks and health informatics programs in Washington State, as well as vendors and consultants on a local and national level. You can go ahead and find the link in the chat box if you want to find out more about volunteering for our Student Engagement Committee. So next slide, I will give it back to Samantha.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Jen. So if you got here a little bit earlier, we were doing a little bit of a quick survey to kind of gauge everyone who's attending, and I'm gonna quickly show those results so that the panelists can kind of get an understanding of where everyone is at. Just give me, oops, sorry, give me 1 second to stop the share. And then, does that show up for everyone? Anyone see the Google form? Okay, cool. So this is what we got so far. It's a very nice, diverse graph here. There's a lot of different health informatics programs that everyone's involved in, but it seems like the majority is from the UW CIPCT program, which is really cool. And there's a lot of other technical colleges and programs around as well. Professionally, it seems like a lot of people are from the healthcare background. Majority of them are from the healthcare background, with some other just students, public health, IT, and clinical informatics. And then next, work experience. A lot of people currently have 9+ years of work experience, which is amazing. I have some that are kind of mid-range and newly entering careerist. And then the last two, which are more specifically toward database tools and programs, programming languages. A lot of people have some familiarity, not too many experts, one expert, and a lot of yes, familiarity. And lastly, the tool that everyone seems to have the most experience with is Excel, SQL coming in next, and R and Python and Cloud coming in right after. So hopefully that was helpful in terms of where everyone is coming from, as it might help to gauge maybe the types of answers that are responded to for some of the questions, or maybe some of the questions you guys might have in the Q&A session. So I just want to show that off, and then I will go back to the slides now. And I would like to introduce our lovely panelists, and hopefully they would be able to tell you guys a little bit about themselves. So if Dennis, if you would be able to introduce yourself and then pass it on to the next person to introduce, that would be great.
Sure, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Dennis David here. I'm a data quality informatics epidemiologist, such a wordy title, but it just says I'm just a data specialist at the Washington State Department of Health. I completed my graduate degree in health informatics at University of Washington last year, March 2021. Let me pass this on to Barbara.
Thanks, Dennis. So I hope everyone can hear me just fine. So my name is Barb TC. I graduated from the University of Washington, MHIHIM program in 2020. I'm an Epic Orders Analyst for Skagit Regional Medical Center, and I'm happy to be here today.
And my name is Daniel Navarro. I want to first thank HIMSS and especially the student committee for putting this together and including us into this panel. I currently work as a clinical content manager or a technical program manager at Amazon Care. I received my Master's of Health Informatics from the University of Missouri in 2018, and where I also graduated from a BSN program in 2010.
Thank you guys so much for that lovely introduction. And then we have our first question is going to be, how do you guys present your elevator speech? So I know you guys just introduced yourself. That was kind of like a short little spiel, really high level, but I think some of us students might be struggling to kind of formulate an elevator speech of how to really present ourselves in the best way possible to potential employers or people we just want to network with. So if you guys wouldn't mind sharing how maybe like what specific elements you might want to share in your elevator speech, or how would you go around creating one and presenting it as well. So I start with Daniel to start off this question for us.
Thank you, Samantha. I believe in the concept of hooking them in first. Present a problem that they may have and a possible solution to their problem. If you're not there to meet them on an issue, relay a short story or an anecdote that is relatable to them. Get the person intrigued of why they should get to know you, then present that information to them, who you are, what you do professionally, and what your interests are. Let's hear from Dennis.
Sure. Since I came from a non-traditional background, there are times I would present myself as what I do right now, what I did before, and what I'm looking forward to. That's the basic, that's the core of what my elevator speech is. But there are also times that I would find a common ground, either whether where they are or anything that we have in common. And that's how I would start the conversation and keep going, keep through the flow. And Barb?
Thank you, Dennis. For me, I like to start with something personal. I like to describe myself, not necessarily professionally. I start with something personal and then I tie that into my personal professional experience or education background. That way, you know, people can relate or can be comfortable. And then I just go from there.
Thank you guys for sharing. I really appreciate that feedback, and I hope that everyone else as well could relate and take in something from that. And so for our next question, primary responsibilities of a role in data. For example, students might be trying to understand what a role in data entails. So if you guys would possibly describe your current role by maybe 3 daily tasks, and maybe what kind of data you guys work with, what kind of problems you solve with that role, and who are your customers. And yeah, so if Barb, if you wouldn't mind starting us off
Sure.
here.
Thanks, Samantha. So I mainly work with healthcare data, mostly orders, nursing notes, provider notes. And what I do with that kind of data is I'm responsible for clinical documentation, as well as using the data that we gather to create insights and see how we can move the business forward. I work with lab orders as well, and lab data mainly. And I also work closely with business users and application teams to design, build, and execute integration, and also user acceptance test plans and scripts. How about you, Daniel?
Thanks, Barb. Well, daily life can be different in all aspects. The majority of what I concentrate on is managing the database that controls most of our patient-facing and clinical support content. This involves ensuring the correct clinical decision support tools are connected to the correct chief complaints to calculate acuity, likelihood diagnosis, and supply patient-facing content for our clinicians to offer. I oversee the work created by our content creators, our clinician content creators, to ensure that the voice of our clinic comes through consistently while still meeting our high bar that we set. I also process tickets provided by the clinicians regarding content. They are our main users of our data, and they are best at relating if any information is missing or needs to be updated. The data is all content-based. So we heard from Barb, and hers is mostly healthcare data. Mine is mostly content-based. There are associated IDs to these, but so there are numbers, but these are not transactional data. It's not a very large data set that I'm working with currently. Almost everyone utilizes our content though, from marketing, clinicians to outreach programs. I also work with every aspect of our engineering team who are able to take the content from the back end, process it through the AWS system, and display it both on our patient-facing app and our clinician-facing portal. And it's going to be a lot different than what Dennis does if we want to listen to him now.
Thank you, Daniel and Barb. Those both are interesting. The kind of data that I work on is on the immunization, currently with the COVID-19 vaccination. And since December 2020, I'm working with at least 7 GB of data, and that's just one. And since one of my primary responsibilities is to check the data quality as we move the data around, since we're moving to the cloud, I'm working with at least three sets of 7 GB data. And what I do is simply check, are they the same as they move around, and make sure we will be addressing or tell facilities that, hey, there's something wrong with this. I hope you can see this on your end and you can do something about it. Another part of it is just rewriting codes. Those are written in SAS, and I rewrite it in the language that's supported by the cloud. Right now, it's either PySpark or SQL. Of course, SQL is everywhere. And lastly is just debugging my own codes.
Thank you, guys. So the next question is actually revolved around passion in data, because I know you guys probably had some kind of passion in data before you guys went and got a role in data. So I was wondering what kind of projects or previous roles that maybe shaped this career focus, and how did you kind of discover these interests? And so why don't we start with Dennis for this question?
Yes, thank you. My passion started when, like I said earlier, I used to be a high school math teacher. And some of the courses I teach is statistics. And I've been presenting charts, tables, and everything to my students. And that's how I have increased my love for data. When I joined the military, I did not just focus on soldiering, but I also volunteered to be a point person for presenting our healthcare data to my supervisors. And after that, that's how it all started. And yeah, let me pass this on to Daniel.
Thanks, Dennis. So the passion for data for me was pretty much just thrown at me. I completed a computer programming class from DePaul University in Chicago a long time ago, and I found that programming just made logical sense. Things worked out because how you told it to work. My first intro into big data was my first job, and I found that not only did I enjoy manipulating large data sets, I found that using tools to massage the data, and we were at that time, we were using SAS, Dennis, so maybe you and I have a connection in the programming language. But I actually found that I was actually good at it, and it was actually fun to do. Let's hear from Barb, see how she goes.
Yeah, so for me, I've worked in lab all along and mainly been using data. So I was just wanting to do something different, not just like be a lab scientist, which is how I started. So I realized we all use data to make decisions, and that's what kind of drove me to kind of get into healthcare tech. And I'm just learning that everybody uses data one way or another, either making decisions based on your data, looking at it, managing it. So I was just always curious on what do we do with this data? Where can we go from here? And that's how I ended up where I'm at.
Thank you guys for sharing. The next part of it is going to be a short little break. So I'm gonna ask you guys to do another poll, but like I said, again, this one is also really short. But if you also need this time to go get some water, go use the bathroom and come back, totally understand. So we're gonna do a Slido poll. If you guys haven't used Slido before, it's kind of similar to like Poll Everywhere or those kinds of software. So there's a QR code right here. And I think Serena is also gonna post this link in the chat. There's going to be 2 questions that I'm going to show you guys on the screen as well. Exit. Nope, this one. Okay, so I think it should show you guys the poll now since I just made it live. And I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to do this question, and I'll read it out loud as well. So are you guys currently considering a role in data, attending this panel? I think that there could be kind of a range of people who are interested, people who are definitely interested in a role in data, maybe initially not, but so far the questions are really curious and piquing your interest. Currently weighing the options between maybe data, maybe something else related or super different, or just currently unsure and very much still exploring in the early stages. So if you guys could, I think there's 17 people so far that have answered, and we have about 20, I believe. So I'll close it in a couple of seconds.
It's kind of exciting to see in the upper right corner how many people are answering.
Slowly polling in.
Like, come on, guys, let's go.
And see everyone slowly trickling in. Okay, so I think they have about 20 people who are here currently. I cannot remember how many we started with. So I will lock the poll now, and I will let you guys see. I don't know if there's like a guess as to what everyone thinks the most people are. I feel like I would guess, actually, I guess I would probably say yes, definitely as my guess for the most number of people, but maybe I'm wrong. Oh, yeah, okay. 52% of the people have definitely considering a role in data. And then the second runner-up is currently still exploring. So there's 2 polar opposites of the scale. So that's very interesting to see that.
Yeah, I'm also seeing in the chat, one of the attendees, Randy, said, one missing choice. What if you're already working in data? So yeah,
I didn't think about that. That's a good option. I totally forgot about that option. So that is very smart. Okay, we'll go to the next question. Yes, so I think this one is the next question. What data roles are you interested in pursuing, or maybe currently in, for that person who is already in a role of data? Is it data analyst, machine learning, data scientist, business analyst, system analyst, database engineer, or other? But if you click other, please put in a chat what other role you're thinking about, because that would be very interesting for us to learn as well, because these are the ones that I could find using Google, but I know there's so many other roles out there that probably do not even close to any of these. So that would be very fun to learn about together if you had any other options. And everyone's slowly doing it. I think this one I let people do multiple options, but I can't remember. So hopefully you guys can pick more than one option if that applies to you.
Okay.
I think I made it the checkbox one, but I can't totally remember off the top of my head now that I'm thinking back. So hopefully it worked.
So we do have one person in the chat, Lindsay Baldrick. She said that she put other because she just got a job as a data coordinator for cancer research. She starts at the end of the month, and she's brand new to a role in data, but also very interested in other roles and what they involve. Well, welcome, Lindsay. You picked a good online panelist event to attend. So, you know, we have an epidemiologist, an epic analyst, we have someone from Amazon. So you'll be able to hear what their roles entail. Yeah, congratulations, Lindsay.
Okay, I am going to now show these results. I honestly don't have a guess. There's so many options here. I'm just going to show them. Oh, health data analyst. I mean, that kind of makes sense based on being a HIMSS event, but I'm surprised that it's such a drastic lead compared to the other ones. So yeah, health data analyst is the top, and then database engineer is the lowest number. So hopefully that was fun for you guys. Give you guys a short break. And I'm going to go back to the slides now in a second. There we go. Okay. So we can move on to our next question. So the first couple of questions were more specifically about the panelists' roles and things that they specifically would share about their experiences. And the next couple of questions are going to be more about their advice for students. So maybe, for example, the first one is preparing students. What kind of skills or experience are employers currently looking for in like a resume or student background that they would suggest having students look into in terms of maybe like qualifications or technical skills. So if Daniel would mind starting us off with this question.
No, thank you, Samantha. Those were some interesting results in the in our polls that we had. More and more, I believe the shift has been focused into show me what you've done. Of course, that could also be the Missourian in me coming out. There are courses and certificates where you can learn skills and keep a portfolio of projects you've completed. If you can't find these courses, or if there's anything like that, you could possibly find a company, and perhaps that you could accompany and build an imaginary database and an application on top of it. It could be voluntarily, it could be something the company will never even use, but prospective employees don't need to know that. Show them the problem that you took and how you created a solution for it, and say that this is what was presented, even if they didn't use it, and even if there wasn't even an existent or like a real company or anything. I also think that like one of the most, Dennis said this, he uses SQL, one of the most used programming languages that I've used in my whole career, except for while actually physically nursing, was SQL. It is something that I've taken in every aspect of each part of my process. I also think that like soft skills are a very important part of becoming a communicator across many avenues of the healthcare system. Being able to talk to many different people in the company and organizations will excel you far. Let's hear from Barb.
Sure. I feel like Daniel has talked about all the ones I would have said. Totally agree. And then one other one I would add on, especially in my current role, would be who do you ask the questions and how do you ask those questions? So everything Daniel said in SQL, yeah, I use it a lot, both directly and indirectly, and it just makes things way easier for me. I've also learned how to do Python, but I feel like SQL was a little bit easier to learn, but I'm seeing it requested in so many different roles now. So what about you, Dennis?
Yeah, thank you. I agree with both Daniel and Barb. Your resume should highlight what have you accomplished, what have you solved. Do you have numbers to prove? What percentage? If you're looking into a data analyst, you should be talking about numbers. Have you saved up company thousands or millions of dollars, or have you solved something specific to the field? Like in public health, have I addressed something that they have not seen before? I started my career in healthcare data using Excel. Don't underestimate the power of Excel. It so happened that I don't have access to different tools before, and so I've utilized Excel and moved my way up because I have accomplished something out of using Microsoft Excel. And also build up from that, start from Excel, SQL, all the way up to other programming languages that you would want.
Thank you for sharing. It was interesting that Dennis talked about Excel because I remember in the beginning when we did the poll, majority of people were experienced with Excel as their strongest, I think, language. So that was very interesting to hear that being validated.
If I may add,
Yeah, go ahead.
I know maybe most of us are Excel users, but do not be comfortable with just typing entries, putting numbers there. Get out of your comfort zone, make something out of it. You can actually create an interactive dashboard, just like a Power BI do, but it will require a lot of effort and people will see your accomplishments. Your recruiters will see that.
If I can add a tidbit on that too, and I wish I could find the study real quickly, but I remember reading the study that said that Excel was actually the #1 data presentation tool used throughout corporations. And it's very odd, you know, especially since you have like the Tableaus and all these other companies that are expressing just data visualization. If you know how to visualize data in Excel and present the data, then you're pretty much further along than most people who can't do that. So to Dennis's point, don't be comfortable just adding in and doing a VLOOKUP. I remember my first VLOOKUP, it was amazing, but you know, learn how to do other aspects and learn how to do other things in Excel. It's a very powerful tool.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so now we're going to shift gears to internships and certificates and boot camps. So if you wouldn't mind sharing what types of opportunities maybe the students could apply for or look into to get sort of a leg up on a role in data. And I know that Barb and Dennis both attended the same data science bootcamp, Correlation 1. So if you guys wouldn't mind sharing maybe a little bit of your experience for that bootcamp specifically, since you both attended that one, that would be great. So if we could start with Barb here for this question.
Sure. So what that bootcamp did was introduce us to the fundamentals of data science. We did a lot of looking at data, getting insights out of it, coding with Python, moving on to SQL, creating data visualizations. So what I really liked about it was we also had support. We had teaching assistants, and then we also had to do a project in the end, which you can always add to your portfolio and use during interviews. And what I also liked about it, it was remote and it also was geared towards underrepresented population. So definitely learned a lot, but as Daniel said, I recommend all the free bootcamps you can get or all the certification programs, but just being able to have a project you completed or have something to show is actually going to make you successful when you go and look for those jobs. So highly recommend, but also be able to show what you did. And then that also helps you know if you learned the stuff well or where you can improve or where you can go from there. Daniel, do you have any insight?
Yeah, I'm going to echo a lot of things that you just said. There are a lot of free or reduced courses that you can take advantage of. Check your local library. I know Seattle Public Library offers a semi-complete LinkedIn learning that you could access these courses for, and take classes of any type. You can also find discount codes for Udemy or anything like that. These self-driven courses will give anybody an introduction on these technologies to see if they actually like it, and see if they want to get into the tech role at all in an organization. And if you are in school, I would definitely look for internships with large companies. Amazon is constantly hiring interns for the summer months, and these are paid internships that give valuable experiences for any kind of students. Dennis, what about you? You have anything more?
Yes, in addition to what they said, of course, it will require sacrifice of your time, or you need to be flexible either because you're working and at the same time still doing something else. And like certificates are good, but what can you do? What can you produce out of those? Yeah. Answers to all those courses that's online, online courses, they're already posted. You can Google that, but what can you do out of what you've learned, and how can you showcase what you did as part of your data project or data portfolio? Those are the things that you should be focusing on. Yeah.
Thank you. That was great. I think our final question that we have to show is kind of a final reflection. What do you guys wish you knew as a fresh graduate or as a student? And is there any advice you would want to give to current students or new graduates? So that would be amazing if Dennis could start us off with this question.
Sure. When I transitioned out of teaching, I knew that I don't want to go back, but I don't know where to go. To be honest, I tried getting into cybersecurity as well. Took all those certification classes, and I did not get any job that's cybersecurity related because I'm not able to show what I can do and what I have accomplished. So I've wasted, I would not say wasted, but it redirected my focus on, I really wanted to be in the healthcare since I already have background in healthcare and in math. So leverage what I already have and refocus on what I really want to do. That's what I would like to part for all of you. I can see Daniel smiling right there. You probably have something, some maybe similar, or yeah, let's hear it.
It is something similar. Something that I wish I had known as a younger recent graduate, I'm assuming all these graduates are young, is save a lot of money. Don't waste your time and money investing in a future that you may not even know that you want. Not everybody's path is going to be linear. Mine definitely was not. I went in as a computer programmer in the beginning, switched to a nurse. Now I'm in health informatics. Now I'm in content management. So the path is not just a straightforward, here you go. So you do have to invest in yourself to get to where you want to go, but save money in doing it. There's lots of free opportunities out there. And when you do find something that piques your interest, see if you even need a degree for it. Healthcare systems are so desperate for good quality candidates right now that they will take the time to train you for what needs to be done. There's a question posted in the chat that said that that was asking about Epic. I learned Epic because I got hired on as an Epic analyst, and they
Uh-oh. Hey, Daniel. Looks like you were just cut off when you were beginning your story about being hired on as an Epic analyst. Let's see if he'll come back. Let's see.
But while waiting on him, I may have some background on that, being an Epic certified. There are some healthcare facilities that will sponsor you to take that Epic certification once you are hired, but most of them are usually entry level, I think, and take advantage of that if that's what they wanted to be, an Epic analyst. Maybe Daniel can answer that question. I haven't actually worked in an Epic environment. Yeah.
Here we go. I think. Hey, Daniel.
I can speak on it as we
Thanks,
wait for
Mark.
Daniel to come back.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, so
sorry.
what
I got
oh,
accidentally dropped, but
go
I
ahead.
was finished. I was wrapping up anyways. I think that's Zoom saying that you're rambling. Please get off. So so I was done anyways. But thank you so much, Barb. Barb, you want to wrap it or take us out? Thanks.
Yeah, sure. So what an Epic analyst does, it depends. Epic has different applications, and you get certified in a specific one, and then you can pick up on others as you go. So basically what they do is to make sure that Epic is working well for nursing or providers. You might be in charge of orders that people are seeing. You might be in charge of business intelligence. Basically, you're making sure Epic works for whoever is using it in your organization. Also, you are responsible for troubleshooting issues that come up, updating the system because things change. And like Dennis said, you do get trained on the job. I had worked with Epic before, but not as an analyst. So the job will sponsor you to get the training, and you don't specifically have to come from a specific background. You can come from nursing, nutrition, public health, whatever it is. So basically you apply for the job, and then once you get the job, they will train you. And that's how I was able to break into it.
Hey, Barb, were you able to answer the final reflection? I think we got to Dennis, we got to Daniel. Were you able to talk about what you wish
Sure.
the graduate and any advice
Yeah.
to students?
Yeah, sure. So I feel like Daniel talked about what I was gonna say. I don't think the path is straight. It's not linear. I wish I knew when I was a student, I wish I knew to just focus on one thing and get really good at it and then continue to grow, Also, I wish I knew the power of networking because 95% of my jobs that I got was through my networks. So yeah, I would just advise you to embrace the unknown, be willing to learn, stay curious. You'll have some highs, you'll have some lows, but just go with it and just know you don't have the answers to everything, and you will learn as you go. And it probably doesn't make sense right now, but everything always works out in the end. That's what I would say.
Awesome. Thank you guys for all sharing for our scheduled questions. I can't see the chat right now, but I think there possibly is more questions in the chat box, which we are going to move on to that time right now. I think that if you guys have any questions that weren't already asked or answered, please either throw it in the chat or you could raise your hand. And I think Jen and Serena are going to monitor in terms of like order or whatever. And then we're also going to kind of let you know like when we're wrapping up the Q&A session. So yeah, feel free to either raise your hand to ask verbally or to throw it in the chat if you have any other extra questions for our panelists.
All right, yes, we do have quite a few questions in the chat. So thank you everyone for your questions. So the first question, it says for the projects that one does via boot camp or a self-created project, do the recruiters or employers mainly look for that on the resume and ask about it in the interview? Or are they looking to find it somewhere online to look at a portfolio or website? What has your experience been?
I can go. For mine specifically, they did not ask for them, but sometimes a question would come up like, I see you have experience using Tableau, for example. Can you tell me about it? And then that's where you would probably say, this is how I used it. I do have, my portfolio shows it if you're interested in looking at it. That way you'll stand out because I don't think most people do that, or they have the project and then, you know, they'll have like their portfolio on their LinkedIn, which is really cool. I know you can even have a website on your LinkedIn now. So I personally have not been asked to show them, but just being proactive and having them ready and mentioning that to the recruiters might help you stand out.
I would add on to that. Remember that most projects that you do for any company you're not going to be allowed to talk specifics for anyways. So if as long, like what Barb and Dennis have both said, as long as you have that project on your resume or in some kind of portfolio that you have saying these are the problems, this is what happened, but without getting into specifics, and I can't show you because it's proprietary information, you know, obviously, I mean, most companies are not going to let you take the project with you to show to your other prospective employers. So, and then, but with the boot camps and stuff, I mean, feel free if you feel like that's something that you want to express and you want to show off, then I wouldn't be surprised that I wouldn't be surprised if anybody were to say, oh, this is a boot project or boot camp project, but you're still able to complete it.
Yeah, may I add also, as long as you can describe what's the situation, what's the problem, and how you solve it without going deeper into the details and how comfortable you're able to describe it. I think that's also how they gauge you of what you, if you have actually done it and solved something.
All right, thanks everybody. So the next question is for that boot camp application, which has been posted in the chat if anyone is interested. There's a knowledge test skills beforehand. As someone who is super entry level, it didn't work for them because they weren't able to learn the necessary math. That correlation boot camp is a good resource for people who, is it a good resource for people who are entry level with data? And then I believe Barb did answer that. She says you don't need prior experience. The skills test doesn't have any bearing. So even if you're entry level, that's a good boot camp, it looks like. So there's one more question about boot camps. Are there any other specific boot camps or courses that you guys would recommend besides the ones we already talked about? We talked about there's a lot of free ones out there, so that I think that was a really good takeaway. So there's one question about what specifically does an EPIC analyst do?
And I think Barb.
Go ahead, you're the expert. Oh,
Yeah.
well, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Daniel. Sorry.
I was going to say, I thought it was Barb interrupting. I was like, she's the expert. She's currently working on it right now. But there's all kinds of, just like there's all kinds of things that within an EHR, you could get certified in a lot of different aspects of an EPIC EHR. So you can work in different departments or different aspects of it. So you could do like rev cycle. I was a MyChart expert. I rolled out MyChart to Northwestern, the Northwestern hospital system in Chicago. You could do like, you know, order transmittal. You could just do ambulatory, working in a cardiac clinic or anything like that. Basically like setting up schedules, setting up workflows. So that's why as a clinician, it's you very easily understand the workflow that goes into the clinic, so that someone can say, okay, this is what happens, this is how it should order up whenever I go through my patient workflow for EPIC or for this clinic. But there's so many. As someone's working on a pop health part of EPIC, and there's like, you know, EDA, you know, databases out there that allow you to slice and dice the information. They have their own slicer dicer. There's all kinds of little components of EPIC that you could learn so much. You can spend the rest of your life working in EPIC and working in different aspects of EPIC if you wanted to, I would say. Barb, do you want to add any more onto that, since I think you're currently the EPIC analyst?
I feel like you answered it mostly. Like I said, there's different certifications you can get. There's so many things you can do, from business intelligence to data analytics to data visualizations. Basically, EPIC is a cloud-based software that healthcare companies use. You can use your EPIC knowledge to get into a different field. So it's just depending on what you want to do, what are your career aspirations, just start by applying for the job and, you know, showing how you can bring in your skills to that role. And then you can end up making a lot of money if that's your goal. You can end up getting into different things. Basically, the options are endless. There's so many different problems to solve. Also, Epic isn't the only EHR out there. There's other ones out there, so don't feel like you're limited to just Epic.
Mhm.
All right, thank you. All right, the next question is for Daniel. It says, how has the Amazon acquisition of One Medical affected your role?
I think I told Jen that I am not really allowed to talk specifics about my current position in terms of like anything like that. However, I just say it hasn't. Short answer.
Got it.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Daniel.
There's another question about Epic. It says, to become an Epic analyst, do you get hired directly through Epic, or is this something where there are jobs within hospitals that offer it?
So both ways, you can get hired directly by Epic, but from what I've known about the organization, Epic likes to hire people right off of college. They have a way of doing things, and that's just how they prefer. So it might be really hard to get into Epic itself directly if you have prior work experience. Why it's like that, I'm not sure. That's just what they told us when they came in to do a presentation for us while I was in grad school. But basically, you do get hired by a hospital who uses Epic, and then they sponsor you for the training. So it looks a little bit like you get the job, you spend about, it could be 3 to 6 months doing your trainings and certifications and, you know, getting acclimated. Also, it will take you a while to kind of get used to everything. I would say it would take a year before you get really comfortable and really you know, you get to learn, but it's a big learning curve. So yes, they will sponsor you. I don't know if there's any other way to get the certification. I'm not aware, but yes, apply for the role. They, you know, take you through the training, and then you go from there.
All right, thanks, Barb. The next question says, I've already have a degree in business and IT management and a year of the master's in data analytics. They have lots of volunteer experience, and they could not get an internship. Can there be any opportunities for someone without a master's degree?
I screamed this in the chat. Definitely yes. Don't let credentials such as a master's hold you back. And like I said earlier, many healthcare companies right now are really desperate for healthcare employees or healthcare IT workers to come into their system that can be trained and do the work that they need to have done. I would not let a master's hold you back. The reason I got a master's is because my company paid for it previous to Amazon. So that's one of the big reasons why I got a master's, because it was free. But I wouldn't let not having a master's in health informatics hold you back.
Yes, and the question mentioned that he has a volunteer experience. You can highlight your volunteer experience in your resume and use that to your leverage. Usually in my resume, it usually says my education is towards the end of the page or the second page, which recruiters or hiring managers don't have time to look at. They always look at what have you done and what have you solved. Volunteerism is a good one as well.
All right, the last one is, I'm a recent graduate from a HIP program. Do I need to continue on the HIM program to obtain a bachelor's degree to work as a data analyst?
I feel like
I
we
think,
covered this one. Oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
Now we're all like shy. No, Dennis, go ahead.
I would say it's somewhat similar to the earlier question. Don't let that hold you. If you already have completed it, work on it, and yeah, work your way up from there and develop yourself.
All right, and one more question just came in. It says, could you please name a few healthcare IT companies?
Oh, man, there are so many. If you think about it, every healthcare system is a healthcare IT company. If your healthcare system isn't really investing in healthcare IT, then I don't know, I'd probably look for a different healthcare company. But like, there's so many opportunities out there. There's so many startups. There's so many large corporations. I mean, even the FANG organization, which includes Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, and maybe not Netflix, but they're all kind of dabbling in some kind of healthcare aspect. There are so many companies out there that are IT companies first that dabble in healthcare, and there's a lot of healthcare systems out there that are doing IT. I mean, you probably throw a rock and hit 5 of them outside your window.
Yeah, even in public health, initially I would not have thought that we will have healthcare IT section itself. So you might not know that they have something inside. So you just have to look for the opportunity.
All right, we still have time for more questions. Anyone want to raise their hand and unmute you to ask a question?
I'm gonna throw in
Yeah.
questions to fill our time. I have one question for Barb. I'm also going to give kudos to Barb because I was listening to some podcasts and I came upon a podcast called Health Analytics Insights. And I found out that Barb was actually a guest on this Health Analytics Insights podcast. And the episode that she was featured in was the importance in fellowships and health informatics. And I was wondering, Barb, are there any other podcasts that you enjoy that you could, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So a podcast that I enjoy, there's one called Black Tides, and I'll put the name in the chat. So I really like this one because it has a bunch of different people from health informatics, healthcare IT, data science, but mainly with a background in healthcare informatics or public health. So definitely recommend it. I'll put the name on the chat or like the link. Definitely check it out.
Great, thank you. Okay, now I have a second question for all three of you guys. Students are finding that healthcare analyst or informatics analyst is a pretty broad search term when searching for jobs. So what specific search terms did you guys use when seeking your current job role? I'm going to start with Dennis.
Sure, thanks. I had that problem too before. I thought I just want to be in a healthcare data analyst, but then I realized it can be called different names: healthcare data visualization, healthcare data ingestion analyst, data engineer, healthcare data reporting analyst, and there's a lot. You just have to play around the words that related to healthcare and data, and you probably would find one. Let me pass this on to Barb.
Sure. Kind of like Dennis said, I think what I would recommend is really reading the descriptions of these jobs that you find. Just Google data and healthcare, even on LinkedIn, online. Just really read the descriptions of what these jobs are looking for, because sometimes the wording is different in tech, in public health, in healthcare industry jobs. So really just take some time when you're job searching and read through like what you'll be doing in these jobs and the skills they need, and then go from there. Don't limit yourself to just one thing.
And I had a specific question kind of like a branch off of this for Daniel. So you previously mentioned your experience as like data architect. I keep hearing different roles like data architect versus data scientist versus data engineer. What are the differences between those three?
Sure, Jen. In a simplistic form, a data architect is somebody who visualizes how the data will be stored within a container, be it a database or anything like that. And if it isn't in like a relational database structure, the data architect then will perform like any like index creations or foreign keys that need to be created, what type of normalization the data needs to be in, the data types that it'll be stored in, along with the actual data needs of the organization, like what it is that they actually are going to be storing. The data engineer is the person who actually maintains the data. And like for an example in the above, this includes like performing any kind of like ETLs, event transfer loads, into the data. They may perform any data cleanup, any data validation to ensure the data is correct and in the right place. And since most data engineers are those who are the most intimate in the data, they are the ones that are often called upon to create like some ad hoc queries or establish reports or create established reports for the company to use. I've heard that basically a data architect is as a data engineer who's outgrown the data engineer position because they can move into the architect role. Data scientists are a little different. They're the ones that actually really deep dive into the data and data mining. Using techniques such as machine learning, they create models and are often called upon to create like any kind of like predictive analytics to give more insight into the company of that they're working for, and working with the data that they have.
Great, thanks. Okay, so I think there was one more question that was in the chat, Serena. I'll read it out. And I think someone also responded to it in the chat as well. How can one find opportunity to start a career with nursing informatics? And I think this question was from Rena. Thank you for that question, Rena. And I see that Lindsay says that, she's heard from other nurses that work in informatics that they became an RN first, then went on to get a master's in informatics, or they got trained in nursing informatics roles. Yeah, that's one. Dennis, Daniel, Barb, any other additional advice on finding opportunity to start a career with nursing informatics?
I'm going to assume that Rena's an RN. To become a nursing informatics, you definitely need to be a nurse first. But I would look within your organization. If you're working currently as a nurse in your organization, tell your manager, tell anybody around saying, hey, I'm interested in health informatics, and I want to know what kind of role a nurse could play. And I think I mentioned this earlier when I was talking about Epic, is that they enjoy having people who know the clinical workflow and can present that to the people that are actually going to use the end product. Such as the nurses. Who better to know what nurses and doctors do than the actual people who've actually done it? So like I would definitely look within the organization that you're working for to get more involved in the IT aspect. Ask if you could do some kind of like shadowing or any kind of like information, like any kind of job roles descriptions that you could look into and see if there's anything that you could talk to somebody more into how they got into the position at your current place. I mean, definitely look within, I think.
Great, thanks, Daniel. Serena, do we have any other questions?
Yeah, so we have one that just came in. It says, you previously highlighted the utility and importance of SQL as a programming language in the healthcare data management. I currently am having difficulty getting approval for backend SQL querying permissions for the university hospital that I'm at, since they are being very careful with security for good reason. I'm still trying, but want to think about backup plans. Are there recommendations for sources of online publicly available EHR data de-identified that I can practice SQL on and one day show a project for? Great question.
I just posted it on the chat. I found some resources for SQL. So basically, you get just the what is it called, the basics, and then you can get data sets from like Kaggle or any other data sets, and then practice, with those. So look at those sources I put in the chat. There's 2, and then there's one that's like a data engineering one, if anybody's interested in that. And then just go from there. But I think the main thing is you'll find out it's not so hard to learn, but definitely practice. I think that's key. And then once you get in a job that you're doing that and you get more familiar with some practice, then you get better at it. So definitely take a look at those resources.
Thank you.
Awesome, thanks. Also, looks like Dennis said Cynthia. Dennis,
Yes.
you want to tell us about that?
Even in Department of Health, we practice using those AI generated data. You just have to write what specifics do you need, and you can create a whole de-identified. Those are not real people. It's not RDI, but just randomly generated health data. And I'll be posting the website right there.
Nice, thank you, Dennis. And it looks like Randy had also said there's a lot of public data sources. Google is your friend. So I think that would be a good place to also look for public data to be able to use SQL on. Okay, so Serena, any other questions?
No, but there's conversation. We're talking about different ways to look up public data. So there's Kaggle, KAGGLE.com. And then it looks like Dennis also posted the Cynthia web link in the chat as well, if you're interested in that. It looks like we still have a few more minutes for questions. What other questions do you guys have? Feel free to raise your hand.
Yeah, if you'd like to unmute, go ahead and raise your hand. Okay. Going once, going twice. Looks like something else popped up.
Yeah, so I think we already did cover. So Lindsay's asking if you need to get a master's degree or a bachelor's degree in healthcare informatics, or is a bachelor's degree in healthcare informatics sufficient for a lot of roles? And I think we talked about it, experience, get your, utilize those certifications online, internships. Ken says, big thank you to all the panelists and organizers.
Wonderful. Okay, so,
Oh, here's one
more
more.
question.
Daniel, can you share the link for internships at Amazon?
There is an internship. I'm not 100% familiar with that though. I mean, I'm just Google searching it right now. Yeah, so here we go. Actually, I'll take that back. I'm Bing searching it. I'm a Bing user, but no one knows what that means. Yeah, so there's the internship for Amazon website. Like I'm looking at what 221 full-time, 11 part-time. Now, granted, not all of these are going to be in healthcare, but like.
Awesome. Great. Thank you, Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Samantha, let's head over to the next slide. we're going to have all of you guys please fill out our survey. This survey is for the Student Engagement Committee to find out what events and what other interests you guys have as our audience and what we should feature next. Please go ahead and scan your QR code. Serena will also be putting this link in the chat for all of you to be able to fill out the survey and give us a little bit more data information about what you would be interested in seeing next from the Student Engagement Committee. Next slide, please. So a couple of upcoming events. Next week, we're having an in-person networking social at Structure Cellars Winery in Soto. If you'd like to attend, please register at WashingtonHIMSS.org at events on September 8th. We also have another online panelist event that is being held. And I believe Barb and Dennis are both going to be presenters there. It's about health data being used in Washington State. So if you're interested in that, please go ahead and register. And our series for careers in informatics continues. November 1st, we have one for roles in EHR. I think one of our attendees, Rena, who was talking about nursing informatics and had questions about nursing informatics. If any of you guys have questions about nursing informatics, maybe the roles in EHR will be a good one for you to be able to watch in November. We will be having folks that work in EHR, whether it be Epic or, you know, we're still looking for folks working in different EHR companies or healthcare organizations. They will be featured there. We do have an informatics nurse that we are getting as one of our speakers. And then in February, we're going to continue with part 3 with featuring roles in tech. Next slide, please. And if you want to get involved with Washington HIMSS, you can definitely connect with us at these various links, washington.himsschapter.org, to check out what we're all about. You can see the Student Engagement Committee, as well as other committees listed on there. You can sign up to be a volunteer if you'd like. If you have any questions for the Student Engagement Committee in specifics, you can contact washington.scholarship@himsschapter.org and reach me. And we have all sorts of other links for you know, connecting, as well as the link again for attending future events. Next slide, please. So for tonight's event, you'll find the recording as well as a Google Doc PDF that we will be posting here in the past events section. Just look for careers in informatics, roles in data, and you'll be able to see that there is a YouTube link as well as a link to download the Q&A that was featured here tonight with our speakers. So yes, go ahead and find that link. We want all of our students and attendees to have that resource in case they want to revisit what we talked about tonight. Next slide, please.
And the link and the PDF probably won't be available for maybe like 1 or 2 weeks. So just heads up for that. There's a bit of a delay in terms of when that gets posted.
Thanks, Samantha. Okay, well, we've come to the end. Daniel, Dennis, Barb, thank you so much. You've been really informative panelists and wonderful conversationalists. Attendees, you guys have been awesome with all of the questions that came in. This was a really, really interactive session, and we hope to be able to see you guys in future sessions. And good luck to all of you. Have a wonderful evening, and thank you so much for attending.
Thank you.